All right, what's up, comrades? Welcome to the left side of liberty, and today I've got a real treat for you. I am going to start my series debunking PragerU. This is a pretty common feature of left leaning videos, I know, or left leaning channels, and I know that, but I really enjoy these types of videos, so I thought I would make one for you. And this is one of their more recent videos. Let's see, when was this thing published? October 26th. So just a couple weeks ago. And the presenter on this one is Dinesh D'Souza, and he is going to tell us uh, about capitalism versus socialism, which one is more democratic, and I am going to just blow him out with facts and logic. So let's hear Dinesh D'Souza out, and let's also hear me out with stuff that. Let's hear me out with facts and logic that actually exist, and let's hear out somebody that actually knows what they're talking about, which is me. So anyway, let's hear Dinesh D'Souza out. And unlike last time when I did a screen capture, I didn't full screen the video, and that was my fault. I apologize for that. But this time I'm going to full screen the video, and let's hear Dinesh D'Souza out. Let's enjoy.
Why is socialism so popular? Less than 10 years ago, you couldn't refer to socialism in a positive way and hope to have a career in American politics.
Okay, so first of all, nobody in American politics is a socialist. I hate to tell Dinesh D'Souza that. Now, there have been people like Bernie Sanders, Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, Ayanna Pressley, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar. Those guys have called themselves democratic socialists, but they're not. They're not actual democratic socialists. They are social democrats. And what social democrats are, they are actually capitalists, but they believe in an expansive welfare state to compensate for the failures of the typical capitalist marketplace. So they want an expansive welfare state, and they want to regulate the marketplace more than, for instance, quote unquote, ANCAPs would want to regulate it, which ANCAPs basically don't want any marketplace regulation. So that's the difference. These people are not socialists, so they may call themselves democratic socialists, but actual democratic socialists are people that they still kind of want something resembling a state, but they want workers to directly elect representatives within kind of a statist framework. So basically, democratic socialists are just to the left of social democrats. So there is a difference, and there are no actual democratic socialists in America. So hate to tell Dinesh D'Souza that, but facts don't care about Dinesh D'Souza's feelings.
Socialism was referred to as the S word. Now it is affirmed either explicitly or implicitly by just about everyone on the left. An amazing.
Wrong. Again, the people that talk about socialism are social democrats, and I wish, by the way, this is the problem I have with people like Bernie Sanders, for instance, is he keeps saying, well, the kind of socialism that I talk about is Sweden and Denmark. It's like, Bernie, those countries are not socialist. So I wish he would stop doing that, and that's why actual socialists like me have a bone to pick with Bernie. It's like, no, those are capitalists. And I think Dinesh D'Souza is going to make that point in this video, and people on the right have made that point in the past. And in that case, they're actually correct that Denmark and Sweden and Norway are actually quite capitalistic. Um, and they'll also point out, by the way, that those countries in the Scandinavian region have no minimum wage, but and I think Dinesh D'Souza is going to get into that in this video. I can't remember exactly because I haven't watched this video since it came out. Full disclosure, but here's the thing that Dinesh D'Souza is not going to tell you about those countries. They have mass unionization. They have much stronger unions than we do in this country. They have much stronger and much more expansive unions in terms of membership. So um, they don't really need minimum wage laws because uh, their unions have enough power to fight for the workers without the government needing to step in and fight for them. So um, that's the reality of the Scandinavian system and why the actual state, even though unions are technically the state and bureaucrats and whatever, like actual policies from the government don't need to be um, as implemented as much into the Scandinavian uh, worker system because of the unions that are in Scandinavia. So, anyway, continue.
Amazingly, given socialism's record of failure, the socialists seem to be gaining ground. Why? What makes socialism so attractive to so many? Socialism, according to its proponents, is more democratic and therefore more moral than capitalism.
Actually, that's true if you go by the actual definition of socialism. Now, of course, Dinesh D'Souza in this video is not going to go by the actual definition of socialism. He's going to go by, the right wing straw man of like bigger government, more regulation, welfare, things like that. Um, but the actual definition of socialism is, again, workers' control over the means of production. So, in a way, socialism actually is more democratic than capitalism. It just is because workers have a direct say in what goes on in their workplace. Whereas, as Noam Chomsky points out, capitalist workplaces are just privatized mini tyrannies. You don't, oftentimes, you don't have any say in what goes on, especially in corporations. I mean, small businesses are a little bit of a different story, but there's still some sort of hierarchy that goes on in small businesses. So it's not that much better. But at a corporation, forget it. You don't have any say as to what goes on. The CEO and the board of directors, they're the ones that make all the decisions. The shareholders, the stockholders, they're the ones that get to make all the decisions, and the workers don't have any say in what to produce, how to produce it, how much to produce, what to do with the surplus value, how to distribute it. All those decisions are decided for the workers. And what socialism seeks to do and does quite effectively is put those decisions back into the hands of the workers. So Dinesh D'Souza kind of answers his own question. Oh, which one is more democratic? Socialism is, but of course he's going to paint capitalism as just like more free and more and a more libertarian type system. When no, it's a more authoritarian and tyrannical system. But thanks to a century of indoctrination, especially in this country, people have been taught to accept that no, capitalism is just freedom and socialism is tyranny and oppression and centralized control and blah, 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 blah. And the truth has just been turned on its head over the past century or so, particularly over the past 70 years or so.
Leftist filmmaker Michael Moore explains it for us. Democratic socialism means everyone has a seat at the table and everybody gets a slice of the pie.
Yep.
The famed socialist writer Irving Howe wrote something similar in his 1982 autobiography. We believe that the democracy in our political life should also be extended deeply into economic life.
Based.
The basic idea here is that socialism is vindicated through its roots in popular consent.
Based.
If a majority of people working through their elected representatives declares something to be a public entitlement, say free college or free health care, then they are justified in extracting resources from those who create wealth to pay for it.
Aha! Now we see what this is all about. Because, again, for those that don't know, the reason why I'm saying again is from my previous channel, I did some PragerU debunking videos. So, for those that are familiar with my PragerU debunking videos, you know just as well as I do that PragerU is funded by basically oil and fracking billionaires. So they don't want people to be educated about the real differences between capitalism and socialism. And this is why PragerU goes after green energy all the time and does anti-climate change propaganda all the time because they know learning the truth about climate change they know that people learning the truth about climate change would cut into their profits. So notice how he said, how Dinesh D'Souza said, those who create wealth. But notice how he didn't say anything about who's actually creating the products that provide the business owners with wealth. Who's actually creating those products? That would be the workers. Who made those people all the wealth? It's not the, it's not the Koch brothers themselves, for instance, that extracted all the oil. And I think the Koch brothers owned Dixie as well, that made all the Dixie cups and all that. And did all that work. No, it was workers that extracted the oil. It was workers that made the Dixie cups and the Dixie plates and whatever. It's workers that do all that. So that's why we're saying workers should have more of a say in their affairs, because this is where workers are going to spend most of their waking lives. So Dinesh D'Souza kind of sidesteps the point there. It's not about because he's like, oh, the socialists, they just want to extract wealth. It's like, no. Socialists aren't interested in extracting wealth. We want to extract control over the means of production. This whole thing about, wealth redistribution and things like that. No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, again, control over the means of production. So he's just wrong. I don't know if Dinesh D'Souza knows that and he's just lying, or if he just plain doesn't know, just doesn't know what he's talking about. I honestly don't know what to think on that. But regardless, he's wrong.
As Nathan Robinson argues in his book, Why You Should Be a Socialist, the moral imperative is to place the economy under the control of the people.
Yep.
Sounds good, at least superficially, until you dig a bit below the surface. First, what direct control do the people really have over any government institution?
Socialism has nothing to do with the government. Nobody ever said, nobody's talking about the government. We're talking about people. We're talking about workers, not the government. I don't understand what people don't understand about this. We're not talking about the government. Yeah, now I know Dinesh D'Souza would probably say, China, North Korea, Venezuela, they call themselves like socialists. So that's probably what he would say in response to me. And I would say, Dinesh, North Korea also calls itself a democratic people's republic. Uh, is North Korea a democracy? Is China uh, do people have control over anything in China despite it being called a people's republic? Um, like honestly, so you can call yourself anything, and here's one for Dinesh D'Souza. What about all the supposed Christians, especially in America, that don't embody any of the values that Jesus taught? Yet they're allowed to call themselves Christians. You can call yourself anything. I could call myself a Buddhist. I could call myself, I could call myself a Jain, like Jainism. I probably embody some of the values of Jainism in terms of like nonviolence and things like that, but I'm not necessarily a Jain. So you can call yourself anything. I could call myself Polish. I have no Polish ancestry. So I don't get it. Continue.
What control do the British people have over the National Health Service?
We're not talking about the NHS.
What control do Americans have over the Department of Motor Vehicles or the U.S. Post Office?
But, oh my God, he's really going to use the example of the DMV to. Okay, there's no equivalence between the USPS and the DMV. There is no federal DMV. Why do people not understand this? Now, in this case, I think he's just lying. Dinesh D'Souza, I think, is smart enough to understand the difference between the DMV and the USPS. He's able to understand the difference between a federal agency, a federal program, and a program that's handled at the state, an agency that's handled at the state level. So I think here he's just lying and being sleazy and snaky.
The answer, of course, is none. Given its practical impossibility, genuine popular control over government institutions is a mirage.
Again, nobody's talking about the government.
Second, what if 51% of Americans vote to confiscate the resources of a single person, say Bill Gates? Does that make it right?
Nobody's talking about confiscating wealth. We're talking about confiscating the means of production. The control over the means of production. Oh my God. Now, in social democracy, wealth is redistributed to pay for social safety net programs. But here's the thing. Why should we, the middle class and poor people, have to pay for people like Bill Gates to receive tax breaks from the federal government? Why should we have to pay for that? It's funny how Dinesh D'Souza doesn't mention that. So people like Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates can get massive tax breaks, and that's okay. They can cheat on their taxes and not have to pay. Donald Trump, we just found out recently that he paid $750 in taxes, and yet we're stuck with thousands of dollars in income taxes. So it's funny how Dinesh D'Souza doesn't mention that. He does the whole typical, the poor, oppressed, rich routine. Like, I feel so bad for Bill Gates. It must be so hard. He can't buy a sixth yacht. He has to only deal with 5 yachts. Bill Gates is so oppressed. Fuck you, Dinesh.
Under an authoritarian socialist government, a single dictator seizes the fruits of your labor. Everyone is against that. Under democratic socialism, a majority does.
Wrong. That's just wrong. No, you can still be extremely rich even in, now he says democratic socialist here, but he really means social democracy. People in social democracies are still very, very rich. So no. And again, Dinesh D'Souza has nothing to say about extracting the value produced by the workers in the industry that bosses steal every day. So I don't want to hear any more of this whining. And still, we have 3 more minutes of whining left to go. I don't want to hear any more about this whining about the poor oppressed rich people. Fuck you.
The end result is the same. You've been robbed. The fundamental problem with democratic socialism, however, is its assumption that in a free market system, the economy is not under the control of the people. This is exactly the opposite of how things work. Let me explain. Each of us are not only...
Yes. Please explain, Dinesh D'Souza. Please explain to me how, quote unquote, free markets work. This should be absolutely accurate and totally not slimy, sleazy, inaccurate, and totally out of right-wing ANCAP fantasy land.
citizens, we are also consumers. These are overlapping categories. Every citizen is a consumer, and every consumer is also a citizen. The consumer, like the citizen, is a voter.
Wrong. This is the whole vote with your wallet thing. Okay. The only things that really matter to corporations are pleasing their shareholders. Corporations do not give a shit about consumers. They give a shit about profits. Now, consumers can obviously contribute to the profits, but overall, it's about pleasing the shareholders, and they have no responsibility overall to the consumer. So that's just bullshit. Especially there's a common like ANCAPy talking point of for instance, well, if a business is if there's bad working conditions in a restaurant or something, or actually, let's go to another example, a car factory. If there's a car dealership that has bad car dealership. Let's do that. A car dealership that has bad business practices and exploits its workers and stuff like that, and has bad working conditions. Why can't you just go to another dealership? What if that's the only dealership in town? What if that's the only dealership for 10 miles? What if and then they'll say, well, why can't you just start up another a car dealership? What if you don't have the money to start a car dealership? What if you have no experience working with cars? So you see how this stuff works? I mean, just thinking about this stuff for 10 seconds, this vote with your wallet stuff is just a fantasy, especially when you have what we have now, which is you have corporations that own corporations that own corporations. You have one on top of the other on top of the other, because these corporations buy influence in the government, and then the government enables these corporations to form monopolies. And what they really should do is break them up, but because they buy favors from politicians, the politicians allow them to to monopolize and take over the markets. And the ANCAP response to that is, well, why don't you just get rid of the government then? And I admit I actually bought that when I was in ANCAP, but here's the reality: the uh, the corporation will then just set up a private state or a private police force and then set up their own state anyway, and then elect representatives to buy or to represent their interests, and then we're right back to where we started. We're right back to square one. So they would set up their own state anyway. So it's this vicious cycle. Uh, so you have to get rid of both the state and the corporation. So anyway,
As
continue.
citizens, we vote once every 2 or 4 years. As consumers, we vote many times a day. The citizen votes with a ballot, which costs him nothing except the inconvenience of going to the polls. The consumer votes with his money, which costs him a lot, all the time and effort he put in to earn that money.
Again, this vote with your wallet stuff is a fantasy. It's just a fantasy. It doesn't really work that way. Again, especially when you have corporations on top of corporations on top of corporations. So,
Only a fraction of citizens are
like,
eligible.
hold on one second. Let me give you an example. You have the media conglomerates. You have like MSNBC, for instance, is owned by Comcast. You have CNN, which is owned by the Turner Broadcasting Network or whatever. Um, see, and these companies are these networks themselves are corporations. So again, you have these corporations on top of corporations that are under the control of larger corporations. So uh, like activism, like consumer activism and things like that, and voting with your wallet and blah blah blah. It doesn't work anymore. It just doesn't work.
Eligible to vote at the ballot box, but every consumer votes in the marketplace, even felons, even children. Illegal aliens cannot vote for political candidates, but they too vote with their money. Moreover, citizens participate in a system of representative democracy. Their views are filtered through the politicians who represent them. Consumers, by contrast, vote in a system of direct democracy. If you prefer an Audi to a Lexus or the Apple iPhone to the Samsung Galaxy, you don't have to elect some other guy to exercise these preferences. You do it directly yourself by paying for them. Here we see the secret of how those.
Okay, no. So the problem here is you have uh so technically, okay. So technically he's right, but there are some instances where he's right, but in other areas there are corporations on top of corporations on top of corporations, and meaningful choices and consumer activism is very very difficult. And um, this vote with your wallet idea is not very effective or meaningful anymore, and you're like food companies and media companies are actually very very limited, and you don't really have that many options. Ooh, nice freeze frame. I like that. um anyway, so he's right and wrong. But it's not like under socialism you wouldn't have different options. Now he's going to straw man, he would probably straw man it as, oh well, under socialism, the state controls everything, and you wouldn't have a choice under the state. But no, under actual socialism, it's not like you wouldn't have a choice between like different brands or whatever. You would still have a market system. Market socialism is a thing, um, you just wouldn't have bosses or owners. You wouldn't have owners. You could still have um, people that make decisions. It just so happens that those people would be directly elected by the workers instead of somebody that's just there and appointed by shareholders and boards of directors instead of a direct representative of the workers. So anyway, continue.
Those billionaires like Jeff Bezos got so rich. We made them rich. The inequality that socialists complain about is the result of popular mandate.
No, it's a result of exploitation. It's a result of exploitation. Do you think that, okay, does Dinesh D'Souza honestly think that Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates and the Koch brothers, does he think that they all got their wealth by, um, uh, does he think that they're on the floor actually producing these goods? Honestly, I'll raise this point again. Does he think that they're on the floor every day producing these goods? Honestly, ugh, no. It's not just popular mandate. It's exploitation as well. So he doesn't factor that in though, because the billionaires that fund him and fund PragerU, they don't want that. So I'm sorry for if I sound a little bit redundant, but I cannot stress that point. Uh, I cannot stress that point enough.
Want fewer billionaires? Stop buying their stuff.
Again, it's hard not to do that when we don't really have a meaningful choice. He's acting like there already is a choice between like market socialism and the billionaire class. If there was a meaningful choice, then yes, I would understand his point. But it's not like there's an actual meaningful choice.
Free markets work not through greed or exploitation,
Wrong.
but
I
by
just proved it.
satisfying our wants.
Nope.
And the most successful entrepreneurs are those who anticipate our wants even before we have them. No one wrote Steve Jobs asking him to make a phone that took pictures, allowed people to text messages, and listen to music. He conceived it and built it before we knew we couldn't live without it. Market economies involve a level of popular participation and democratic consent that politics can only envy.
Nope. Nobody. No, 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 no. Again, he's looking at this. Wait, so is he anti politics? Politics is in everything. So I I don't get it. So you're pro market but anti politics, but politics is involved in everything. I don't really understand the point he's trying to make here, but I think what he's saying is uh, the state doesn't allow you as much participation in the democratic process as the market when really it's the opposite. Do you have any idea, like in the workplace, for instance, uh, Chomsky was actually saying in the actual workplace. So, granted, we're not talking about the actual consumer here. We're talking about workers, but that in the workplace, bosses have more power than authoritarian leaders, dictators can dream of. So Chomsky actually makes the opposite point that than Dinesh D'Souza is making here, because authoritarian leaders can't tell you how long your bathroom breaks can be, or when to go to the bathroom, or or anything like that, and or when you can have a water break or whatever. They can't really enforce that really. So, and bosses essentially can. So, um, that's Chomsky's point, and of course, I happen to agree with Chomsky more than Dinesh D'Souza on that point, and on many other points as well. So, anyway, I totally, like I said, I'm just confused by D'Souza's point. But anyway, let's try to get through the last minute here without killing ourselves.
We don't need to extend democracy from the political to the economic sphere. We already have it. And the moral grounding of free markets, just like that of our political system, is in the will of the people. In the latter case, a will expressed only on election day. In the former case, a will expressed deliberately, emphatically, constantly. We don't need socialism because we already have something more moral and more democratic. It's called capitalism. I'm Dinesh D'Souza for Prager University.
Yes, nothing says morality like exploiting workers and polluting rivers and air and trees uh, and making like really really cheap products and kicking out of people kicking people out of homes uh, because they can't pay rent and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's a really moral system, Dinesh. That's so moral. Um, yeah, get out of here. I'm done with this guy. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please subscribe. Please, I need more subs. Um, and anyway, as always, take care, and I will see you next time.